So far, I've given you an overview of the development cycle and what it means to be part of a team and some processes to help come up with ideas. But what about actually making a game? Let's talk about that. In this section, I'm going to go through some practical ideas that will help you run a game development process. First up, let's start with something really basic. What does it do for your project to have a plan and process for getting it made? Well, it means that you're going to set yourself up for success instead of failure. It means that you're going to know what's going on, what needs to be done, who is doing what, and when you have to get it finished by. Let's introduce two more really important bits of jargon: waterfall and agile. These are two quite different approaches to project management. We're going to be taking little bits from each one. When I gave you the overview of the development cycle, I was actually describing a waterfall style process. Waterfall is the idea that you can plan a project so that one part links down to the next as it gets done. Kind of like water falling from pool to pool in a series of falls. Under this system, the planning is done up front, which is maybe fine for some engineering projects, but is a very rigid way of making something creative like a video game. I once attended a waterfall training course that was run by a guy who spent his career managing oil rig construction projects. You can imagine there's not a lot of room for change in a project like that. Game projects change all the time. I find that waterfall is great for setting out the shape of the big picture, the stages of the development cycle, but it's far, far too inflexible for the day-to-day running of a game project. As I said before, you have to be ready for things to change. And if you have a project plan that's carefully worked out to the nth degree, changing it is going to be really painful to do, which is why we need some ideas from our second jargon word, agile. This is a system designed to accommodate change, lots of change. The most formal version of agile is called Scrum, and I'll be honest, I've never used it in its purest sense. But I do very much like some of the key ideas of an agile approach, as they fit really well with the qualities of teamwork and accountability and responsibility that I think are important. In agile, you create a big list of what needs to be done, known as a backlog. The team considers the needs of their clients or customers or their senior managers, who are known collectively as stakeholders. And the team is helped by a project manager, but who kind of maybe acts more like a project guide, keeping the process moving along rather than directing the action. As a group, they prioritize the items on the backlog and choose what to work on next. Often these pieces of work are done in 2-week blocks of time called sprints. At the end of a sprint, the team and the stakeholders review what's been done, look at what's left on the backlog, and choose what to put in the next sprint of work. Remember what I said in that first module? Talk, plan, make, review. If a request to add a new thing to the backlog comes in, that's fine, but it goes into the mix with all the other things that need to be done. This agile process allows for lots of flexibility and change, while also giving the team control over what work is being done. The other advantage is that future sprints of work are never that far away. It's not like requests for new stuff are being kicked miles down the road or ignored. So, in my experience, good game development practice tends to use ideas from both of these approaches, blending the best of waterfall and agile. You take the waterfall style formal development cycle structure of briefing, idea generation, pre-production, production and post-production, and within it, use agile techniques to give flexibility to deal with change as you go along. Now you might argue that, for instance, if pre-production has been done well, then things shouldn't be changing in production. And that's largely true, but that doesn't mean priorities won't and can't shift during production, that pressures to get a certain part of the game done first won't pop up. That's why and where Agile works so well. Here's a short piece by a game producer talking about how they use Agile methodology day to day with their team.
I would say the project management process in our studio is agile-ish. We're not strict practitioners, but we do take things that we like and it fits in for the way we develop games. So what do we do? So we do daily stand-ups, and we're quite strict with those. So, you know, they're roughly 15-20 minutes, and they obviously follow the strict format of, like, you know, what did I do yesterday, what am I doing today, do I have any blockers? It took a while for us to get used to that, because, you know, we normally, especially on a Monday, because we'd be like, oh, hey, we'll do it the weekend, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, no, this is work. Let's sort these 3 things out and move on. But of course, you know, it's game development, so the conversation doesn't stop there. So we make sure that's really strict. And then if you're talking about a blocker, you know, that might have to go off on a tangent. But then the people involved in that blocker, they break out and deal with it on their own time. What else do we do? So we work in 2-week sprints, and that's been great for us, because traditionally, I mean, most of us from ex-AAA, and we're not used to working like this. We used to work in a waterfall method, which is pretty rigid. Like, and you know, you're expected to know what the task is you're doing 18 months in the future, which is ridiculous. So yeah, what I like about 2-week sprints is, you know, we have a kickoff meeting, and I just love that the onus is on the team to pick the tasks they want to do, so they have that increased sense of responsibility. And then at the end of the sprint, you know, we make sure we have a day for sort of like testing and tidy up and milestone deliverables, and for a retrospective where we just sit down and think, okay, how are we doing? Like, how was our performance in that 2 weeks? Is there anything you know, system-wise or structurally we need to change as a company, or are we doing okay? That's like, yeah, okay, good. And I guess from a project management perspective, the biggest thing for me there is how accurate was our estimates in terms of the tasks, right? Like, you know, did the tasks take us 4 days? Were they, you know, could we nail those? Have we got them right? Because as we go forward, that enables us to be more accurate and be more confident in our deliverables, right? And it goes both ways. Not just did we take too long, like did we do them too quickly? Because, you know, we don't want to be, you know, making life too easy for us. You know, we want to be like just right. So that's pretty cool.